very warm good afternoon, good morning, or good evening as per the time refers to. My name is Annie Miraj Kidwai, and I'm the founder and director and faculty at Vertex, the solution of every need. I welcome you all to Vertex. Today, I'm going to address to all my subscribers, my viewers, students, children, college students, everyone who face difficulties in writing skills. Basically, this video lecture is based on the drafting skills, how to drastically improve your drafting skills by learning some punctuation today in this class. I received some queries to improve writing skills as well as to do a presentation lecture on punctuation. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we all going through a very tragic phase due to COVID-19 situation, and I really pray for all of us or all around the globe to stay protected, safe and healthy. I hope you're keeping yourself and your family protected and staying inside of your homes following the government guidelines as well as keeping yourself sanitized. Let's begin today's lecture, and I wish that this lecture would be fruitful for all of you. Happy learning. So, we will begin our lecture by understanding what is punctuation basically, and where do we use punctuation, why we need to learn punctuation, and how we can use punctuation at the right places. Whenever we talk about language learning, we must understand a greater proficiency of language learning also includes the writing proficiency. When we talk about English language and when we talk about the proficiency, the degree of implementing language to communicate either verbally or non-verbally, we talk about one of the most important element of proficiency of language implementation and learning is writing. And writing includes your letter writing, your email writing, essay writing, writing a story, writing a novel, drama, you know, just communicating, on a daily basis, on a day, your day-to-day task, communicating in your office, improving the drafting of your business English. Everything includes punctuation. So punctuation is a very important element in building good writing skills in English language. So, where do we use punctuation? Let's just understand this. We know that punctuations are used in sentences. I'm 100% sure that my viewers who are watching this video already know sentences, classification of sentences. Because why I'm telling you this, to understand punctuation marks and their uses, it's very important to understand the classification of sentences. So I'm going to briefly tell you some of the sentences and the classification so you can have a foundation of understanding the punctuation. We already know, and I've already taught to a lot of my students everywhere, I always start my part of speech from sentences. So we have declarative sentences, we have imperative sentences in English, we have interrogative sentences in English language, we have exclamatory, we have optative, etc. right? So every sentence is different than the other. That is why it is a classification of sentence. With the relevance of the way a sentence communicates to the receiver of that communication, a particular punctuation mark is assigned to be used with respect to the classification of that sentence. For example, a declarative sentence is different than the imperative. How? A declarative sentence usually declares about something. For example, let's take a very minute example so that everybody can be on the same page. If a you know 8 years old child is watching this video lecture, or a person who wants to improve their writing skill working in a corporate government office or wherever it is, improving business English, business letters, they can also relate it with it. So I always make cumulative video lectures so everyone can relate it too. The content of my videos, the content of my presentations, I develop in such a way that if a child is watching the presentation, the lecture, and if an adult is watching, they can all be on the same page. So the content, what I believe is the right set of content is that where everyone is able to understand what you are communicating. Okay, coming back to declarative and imperative sentences. Declarative sentences are that kind of sentences which declares something, which has a reflection of an authority and set of rules that has to be communicated. For example, if I say right now the COVID-19 situation is going on, I would say the government declared lockdown, for example. So when I say the government declared lockdown, there is the at the end of the sentence I put a period. In the same way, the imperative sentences reflects on something which gives commands. I'm not going to take a lecture on sentences, but I'm going to briefly create a foundation to understand punctuation marks relevant to the classification of sentences. In the same way, we have interrogative sentences. In short, interrogative sentences are meant to ask questions, right? Exclamatory, some kind of emotion or a surprise. So you should be knowing the type of sentences, the kind of sentences, the expression of that sentences, and then you're able to use the right type of punctuation mark. Now, ladies and gentlemen, dear children, there are some punctuation marks I picked up today that are most commonly used in writing skills in English language and that we must understand to build the proficiency in language. These are apostrophe, bracket, colon, exclamation point, hyphen, period, question mark, comma, parenthesis, quotation mark. We are going to see each one of them in detail. Let's see what we have next. So, punctuation and its uses. So, the marks such as period, comma, and brackets used in writing to separate sentences and their elements. They are used to create clarity and sense in sentences. They show the reader where the sentence starts or finish. So these are some of the basic definition of punctuation marks, as I already told you earlier, that punctuations are used to improve the proficiency of the language. I hope you understand the word proficiency. When we learn any language, we must be proficient at least at the C2 level, that we are able to fluently speak in that particular language, you know, greatly implement in the writing and reading and listening that language. So the C2 is the most advanced stage of proficiency of learning English language. So this video lecture will be uh, beneficial for people who are at C2 proficiency, that is the advanced proficiency. They already know the language, they are already using this language, implementing the language, understanding the language, speaking the language. So in this way they can, you know, improvise in their writing skill, writing proficiency of the language. So we generally used punctuation marks to differentiate, between the kind and the type of communication and its expression. They give more clarity as it's written here. They create more sense in the sentences. They actually order a sentence grammatically well when we apply punctuation marks. What is the role and significance? What is the role of punctuation and significance? Ladies and gentlemen, my dear children, let me break down it for you. Significance means the importance, why we need to learn punctuation, right? So the importance of learning punctuation. Punctuation plays a very important part in writing of clear English. As I already told you, that it gives you lot of clarity in your speech as well as in the writing part. You are able to clearly communicate it well, um, where to stop, where to take a pause, which expression is of anger, which expression is of grief, which expression is of sadness, etc. So the punctuation plays such kind of role to give a clarity in the type of communication you are going to have with the receiver. And certainly when your communication is very clear, you will receive a very clear feedback by the receiver. The various marks are used to show a stop or pause, period, question mark, exclamation point, comma, semicolon, dash, possession and omission, apostrophe, direct speech or quotation or inverted commas, quotation marks, also known as quotes. So these are some of the roles and the significance in a brief and accumulative manner I have shown on the slide, that I have just told you, that they are used in direct speeches. They can be inverted commas, there are quotation marks which are also called as quotes. Generally we put quotation marks like this. We will see in detail the uses and where to use them. Omission, generally we use omission. Omission means to omit something, to edit something. If I would say a synonym for omission, it means to edit something. Generally, if I say here, let's take a very minute example on the slide. Um, I cannot do this. If I say I cannot do this, I will omit it and make it I can't do this. So I omitted the sound and few letters by using a certain punctuation here. We'll understand in detail what sort of punctuation mark it is and how I edited it. So this is called as omission. I was trying to explain you omission here. Let's understand in detail what it is all about. Apposition, bracketing, parenthesis, pair of commas, pair of dashes, round brackets, square brackets, joining up hyphen. There are so many punctuation marks. But today I picked up some of the punctuation marks which are commonly used and implemented in learning language. Let's start with apostrophe. We all know what is apostrophe. We generally use such kind of apostrophe where we are showing some sort of a possession. Use the apostrophe when combining two words. It is always placed in the spot where the letter have been removed. She's only allowed candy on Friday. What does this rule is trying to explain here? This rule is trying to explain that we use apostrophe when combining two words. If you see in this example, it's contracted here, she's, which implies to she is, or we can also, as per the type or a kind of tense used, she has. We can also write she has in this way. She's only allowed candy on Friday. So here we had used apostrophe. This mark is called as apostrophe. Use the apostrophe to show possession. Place the apostrophe before the S. That I already told you that whenever we possess something, there we use apostrophe. Let's see an example. If I say, that's my book. So here it is showing a sort of possession, or Rita's book. Now that's my book. So here this word my along with the apostrophe which contracted, that is reflecting on possession of something. Here I used it with Rita, proper noun, with an apostrophe S. So the book belongs to Rita. It implies that. I hope this much is clear to all of you. In the same way, it's written here, they found Miss Connor's glove. So whose glove they found? Miss Connor's glove. So this is an apostrophe used here. Now let's see some more quotations. We have bracket. What are brackets? You must already know about brackets earlier. You must have used in mathematics, children. But here let's understand what are brackets and how we can use them in English language writing. Brackets are another kind of punctuation marks that we use in English language. If we read on to the slide, brackets are interruptions. So basically, what is the role of bracket in language writing? They interrupt between the sentences to break down the sentences and emphasize and create an emphasis on the speech or the kind of communication you are doing. When we use them, we know they've been added by someone else. They are used to explain or comment on the quotation. Bill shook his hand with Al. Now, can you see this first rule and first example here? It says that brackets are interruptions. When we see them, we know they've been added by someone else. So there is an additional information in this example here. We are talking about the action of Bill. What action Bill did? He shook. Shook is the past form of shake his hand with Al. So there we have more information about the action of Bill. We got some more information about the action of Bill, that Al is the son of Bill and he shook his hand with his son. So here we've included a bracket here, and in the bracket we wrote his son. Who is Al? His son. Who is uh, his son implies to Bill. He is Bill's son. So there we have added a bracket. Let's see another rule of bracket. In formal writing, in also in the formal writing, whenever there are quotations and the sentences, we apply brackets again for the interruption. Can you see some quotation marks have been put here? It's like this: the quotation mark, the bracket, T is in the bracket, and then the continued sentence. The better angels of our nature, it's in the quotation, so it's highlighted comment, as we know that why we use brackets as an interruption also. Gave a powerful ending to Lincoln's apostrophe first inaugural address. So at times we use brackets where we have to maintain the balance of quotations in the sentence, maintain the integrity of both the quotation and the sentence. So here we are using the bracket. I hope this is clear to all of you. Let's move on to the next slide. Now let's talk about the punctuation mark Cologne. This is how the Cologne looks like. Use Cologne after a complete sentence to introduce a list of items. We usually write colognes after we have to list some items. Let's understand. On my trip, I will bring. So here the list. This is the first item. Suppose this is the second item. This is the third item. This is the fourth item. This is the fifth, and so on. So here, on my trip, I will bring. You are giving a list of people. List of items. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, about this. For example, let's take one more example here. The following are required. It could be anything. I'm writing in brief. The following are required. I put a colon here, and I've made a list of things. What's required? Suppose if you're going for a documentation and admission, you require, your grade 10 certificate, you require grade 12 cert, and so on. It could be any kind of a list, any kind of an information that you would like to communicate. So there, whenever there is a list of items that you would like to communicate in the written form, after the particular requirement you put Cologne. In the same way we had put Cologne here as well. Use Cologne after the greeting of the person's name in a business letter. Now this is very informative for people who would like to improve their business English, as well as students of MBA, PGDCA, PGDM, etc. They have a subject called as business communication, and this video lecture is very beneficial for those people as well. You often write business letters, right? Letter of requirement, your biodatas and your resumes and cover letters and so many types of information that you circulate along with a type of email or a letter, right? uh, there whenever I'm not going to talk about the whole format of the business letter, but suppose I'm writing a letter to Mr. Keats, you know I will put a colon and begin the letter with Dear Mr. Smith. I will definitely discuss the formats of business letter in case if you require in some other video lecture, but currently we are only sticking. That's why I was telling you in the beginning of the presentation that this video lecture is for people who have C2 proficiency, that is the advanced proficiency. If you do not know what is a business letter, the format, how to write letters, etc., this is not for you. This is for the improvement. As I already told you, it is cumulative, so everyone can take advantage of such video lecture. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's see the another punctuation which we are going to see in this slide is comma. Comma is the most common punctuation mark in English language that we use, and comma is required uh, to read, to understand, to implement, because it is used everywhere. So comma implies to short pause in your communication. Wherever you are taking a pause, a shorter pause, you use comma. Use a comma to separate words or items in a list. For example, she has two dogs, so there are different words and different items in this sentence. So she has two dogs, cats and fishes. Now we can use fishes and fish as well. I hope this is known to everyone. The difference between fishes and fish, I'm not going to discuss in this slide. I will leave it up to your curiosity. If you can find the difference between fishes and fish, wonderful, great enough. In case no, so I will make a singular and plural video in some other lecture. So here we had differentiated, separated different words and items by using comma. So when I will read the sentence, I will take a pause after the comma. I will not read it like this. She has two dogs, three cats, and five fishes. This is incorrect way of the speech of pronouncing particular sentences or certain words, because then what is the use of punctuation mark if there is no difference in the speech? So how would I read the sentence? I would read it this way: she has two dogs, three cats, and five fishes. So I am taking short pause after every comma. Use a comma to separate city from its state. For example, I am from East Lansing, Michigan. So whenever we talk about East Lansing is the city and Michigan is the state. For example, for Indian students, I would say I am from Hyderabad, comma, Telangana, right? So I used a comma after the city with respect to the state. So I have separated the city of that state. Use a comma to separate two adjectives. Now we all know what are adjectives: when the word and can be inserted between them. She was a young and charming girl, right? So if you are not if you're not adding and here, so we separated two adjectives, young and charming, by using comma. She was a young. We can use young and charming girl as well, and she was a young, charming girl. I hope this is clear. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, the most favorite of all, punctuation mark, which is very common. It is our favorite, period. We also call period as a full stop, but we follow British English. So in British English, we call it a period, and in American English, it is called as a full stop. Let's understand. Periods are used to indicate the completion of a sentence. In American English, they are called as a full stop. They are used after abbreviations such as AM, PM, etc. I want to have a cup of coffee, period. It's a imperative sentence because it's I want to have a cup of coffee. It's sort of a desire, demand, command. So it is not declarative. It is imperative in nature. Hence, we use a period after the completion of a declarative or an imperative sentence, both. Let's see further. Further, we have the favorite, parenthesis. Now, I want to elaborate a little here on the spelling of parenthesis in the beginning of the slideshow, and here this is used when we use es. It is for the plural. Now, when we use is, that is for singular. I hope you understand the difference. Let's see what is parenthesis, what kind of a punctuation mark it is, and how to use it. It is used to add some additional information. It can be used as a single word or it can be used as single words or a complete sentences. The information used inside the parenthesis is an additional information provided apart from the grammatical and content-based information of the sentence. Guys and dear children and my viewers, here there's a correction. It should be provided. I missed it probably while creating. The information used inside the parenthesis is an additional information provided apart from the grammatical and content-based information of the sentence. Periods can only be used inside the parenthesis if the entire sentence is inside it. Parentheses are not the part of a subject. For example, he borrowed money from me. Now, what it is saying, I read the whole content on the slide, what does it implies to? Why do we use it? So, parenthesis, first of all, is a kind of a punctuation mark that we are reading about. It looks like this. It's look like this. Bracket is like this, and parenthesis is like this. You know, in mathematics, this kind of shape you call small bracket, and this kind of a shape you call square bracket, right? But in English language, as a punctuation, here we call it parenthesis and this one as a bracket. So we use it to provide some sort of an additional information. You know, we can use with single words. That means in a parenthesis, a single word can also come and a complete sentence can also come. The information used inside the parenthesis is an additional information provided. There is an additional information apart from the sentence that is communicating, adding on to some more information which is relevant with the communication, apart from the grammatical and content-based information of the sentence. This is what it means. It implies periods can only be used inside when you are writing the whole sentence inside of the parenthesis. So the period should come inside. Period is the full stop in American English, but we do not call it full stop. We say period. It should come inside of the parenthesis mark. Parentheses are not the part of a subject. That means if he, here we cannot imply it. It is not the part of the subject. So he borrowed money from me. This is a very simple sentence, so everybody can relate it to easily. So how much money? 20,000 rupees. So we've put, parenthesis here. So there is an additional information about how much money he borrowed. I hope this is clear to everyone. Let's see hyphen. What is hyphen, not what are? Hyphen is generally used in between of two different words that we would like to combine. So here it is. Hyphen is used to join different words. For example, I say I would say let's take one. 6 pack, right? 6 pack. So 6 is another word, pack is another word, and by using hyphen I joined or combined them, right? So this has become 6 pack. It is used with compound modifiers. I hope you all are aware of modifiers. Modifiers are certain type of part of speech that modify nouns, verbs, pronouns, etc. Or two words combined to work as adjectives. For example, broken-hearted. So I'm not going to take a grammar session here. So I leave it up to your curiosity and your research. If you feel any difficulty, please leave your feedback in the comment section. Hyphen is used, hyphenated compound words. It's used with hyphenated compound words. For example, son-in-law. Son is different word, I and in is different, law is different. But when we combine all together, we use hyphen and it becomes one word. So in this way, we use hyphen. Then we are going to talk about another punctuation mark, that is the exclamation point. So you all can see how the exclamation point looks like. It is used at the end of the sentence. Let me be very specific. The type of sentence and kind of sentences I discussed in the first slide. There I told you that there is exclamatory sentences also. So we use exclamation points with exclamatory sentences. Exclamation point is also called as exclamation mark, which is used at the end of exclamatory sentences. It shows certain emotions of anger, happiness, surprise, shock, etc. For example, get out. Ouch, I scored the highest. So someone said, get out. Just get out. Somebody is angry. Ouch, hurt. I scored the highest. Excitement or happiness. So it's showing different emotions in each one of them. There we use the exclamation point. Let's understand quotation mark. What is a quotation mark? I hope you can see the kind of quotation mark in the picture. It is used in a dialogue, direct speech, right? Quotation marks are used with the titles, direct speech, write words as words. Periods and commas always goes inside the quotation mark. If we have a sentence in quotation mark, she is best. We use the period inside of the quotation mark and quotation mark will come outside. Quotation mark, if you have once opened it, you have to close it as well. If quoting the complete sentences, initial letter must be capital. So the S should always be capital, or any letter which you have been starting writing should be capital. If quoting phrase or clause, I hope you know what are phrase and clause. In case you have problems in understanding, please leave your comment. I'll try to upload something relevant. Not from the beginning, it should not be capitalized. So if you are quoting a phrase or a clause in the middle of the sentence, or it is a part of the sentence where you are not starting the sentence, then it should not be capitalized. Okay? I hope this is also clear to. And then we have the most easiest one. You all know, question mark. So question marks are often used, not often, yes often, and actually they are used with interrogative sentences where you are putting up questions. You are asking, suppose, how are you? You have asked a question. How are you? You're using a question mark. It should not be used after indirect statements. For example, about I believe we will he be able to manage, right? So we cannot use question marks without see. I believe Cologne will he able to manage? Yes. So here we can use the question mark, but why can't you be silent? Why can't you be silent? Here we will not use a question mark because it's an indirect statement. So where a direct statement is there, we ask direct questions. There we use question marks. Rhetorical questions does not require a question mark. For example, why don't you come up with something new? The same I have just told you, right? And it's a rhetorical question as well as it's also an indirect statement. It's kind of an indirect statement. You're not why don't you come up with something new? In spite of saying you don't have anything new, you are not creative, I'm going to deliver an indirect statement by saying, why don't you come up with something new? Right? There we do not use the question mark. I hope this is clear to. Thank you so much for your patience, and here we come to an end of our video lecture. If there are any further doubts and you need some kind of a clarification on your doubts, you can write an email to me, that is on annikidwai366@gmail.com. You can also reach us through our business WhatsApp profile. You can make WhatsApp calls and WhatsApp messages as well. You can visit our website, that is www.vertexthesolutionofeveryneed.com as well. Thank you so much for giving me your time. If there is any kind of a feedback, constructive, negative, positive, you can leave in the comment section below. Take care, keep yourself and your family healthy inside of your homes and sanitized. Bye bye. I will see you in the next video lecture.